Yes, but one thing I don't know, maybe I'm off point on this, but it's like the people here with the great talents, but they in hiding, like they you know what I mean? They got the talent.
Wait a minute. They didn't go into hiding with no reason. They did not go into hiding because people were so positive, encouraging, and receptive of their efforts.
I think that
they didn't go into hiding because they weren't afraid.
Sure.
They didn't go into hiding because they weren't afraid that their son would lose his job on the back of the garbage truck.
Sure.
They didn't go into hiding without just cause. I think anybody who stands up in this political environment has to be incredibly courageous. Do you know what I found out? A lot of the people fighting to save Muhlenberg are cancer survivors.
Sure.
People who've had horrible things occur to them.
Sure.
Some of them are on their deathbed now and dragging themselves to meeting. You know what I tell people? 1 foot in the grave does wonders for your backbone.
That's right.
Can I get an amen?
Amen. And keep hope alive. I know you Republicans, but I'm going to say this right here. Yes, we can. But let me say this right here. You know, the situation that the nation is in today, the economic situation, you know, we need everybody to win this thing. You know, we need everybody to come up out of hiding. You know, I go back to the Battle of Russia. You know, when many different nations in Russia came together for whatever the interest, they just didn't want Nazi Germany to win. Now, I'm not going to say that they didn't have their problems, because the problems was there. But they knew that they can deal with what they dealt with their own situation, than to have someone else come in and dictate them the way that would probably would happen. And so everybody lend a hand. How can we get everybody here in this great city, the Queen City? You know what I'm saying? How do we get them to lend a hand without fear?
Get rid of the cause of the fear is the obvious answer to that question.
And what is the cause of fear?
The machine politics in the old part of the Democratic Party, to tell you the truth. Mr. Adrian Mapp, you recall, in the primary election, was here in the studio with us. He had the audacity to challenge the status quo in the Democratic Party.
Sure.
He ended up losing his job because of it.
We're right.
Now that's where the fear comes from. If we get rid of this machine, then people come out. And
do you think
I have no machine behind me. I have no political agenda. I have no political debts to pay. I want to be a one-term mayor. I won't start campaigning for re-election on the day after I'm elected. And I think that I can encourage people to come out, and I will go looking for them wherever they are and ask them, not wait for them to show up and knock on my door.
Yeah, I'd like to echo that, and I would like to make an observation in this moment in time. When you go to these events, I've been to one of the 2 recent events held for Jim. There were Jewish people, Catholic people, Protestant people, black people, white people, Hispanic people, Democrats, Republicans, and independents.
Sure.
All there getting behind Jim's candidacy. I don't mean to exclude you.
No problem.
Deborah, but what I see in that is something that I haven't seen in the last 4 years, where people of every stripe and every persuasion and every philosophy are coming together, as you said, in a common goal. And that is to make progress in the town of Plainfield. I see the same thing in my campaign, where people are crossing party lines, they're crossing gender barriers, they're crossing lines that heretofore didn't seem reachable. But the point is, and I think what Deborah and Jim are talking to, is that for so many years in Plainfield specifically, the town has been controlled. It's been managed from the standpoint that anybody who rocked the boat either had a relative that worked at the PMUA or somewhere else that lost their job, or in order to keep people in line, someone in the family got a job. I think that the people are so tired of the arbitrariness, of the retribution that's taken place in this town, that they have lost hope to a certain degree. But I'm seeing a spark. And I think that when you have the right people at the right place at the right time in history, people will get behind them. And if you show the people not only in the second and the third ward, but the people in the first and the fourth ward, that despite what you might have thought, tomorrow will be a better day on this path, they'll come along.
Well, you know, I'm going to say this right here. The way politics have been won years ago, there may be some that still believe in the old pencil and paper, you know, what we can almost say today, in a few years, the barbaric way with the pen and pencil. But it will be won over the internet, and it will be viewed a great deal with the internet. Mm-hmm. So I think that with the Facebook, the Twitter, the YouTube, the this, that, and the other, all these search engines that's out there today, you know, that little cozy little place you hear that, well, it ain't cozy no more. The jig is up.
And it's free to get to it.
Yeah, that's the other side. Of
Okay.
The other side of the story. Back in the revolutionary days, people would publish pamphlets. That was expensive. But it was a small population. They could also go out and speak on the street corner.
That's right.
And people would hear them. Then we got big in this country, and the little guy didn't have a voice at all.
That's right.
Now through the internet, everybody can be heard, and it doesn't cost a dime.
That's right.
It's a new revolution in politics, I believe. And I know Deborah's making good use of the internet too.
But this is what I just want to say this right here, that when the Reverend come, you understand, because I'm going to come to these events. Now, the people are the first to say that the church don't get involved. That's what they say when they have issues. But when the church is there, like I came to that forum at the library in Plainfield, they kicked the church out.
They didn't kick the church out.
Maybe it wasn't the church that they thought, but then that's the same way with Jesus. He wasn't the one that they thought. They wasn't going to elect him, and they would have rather had Pilate. Somebody, you know what I mean? He wasn't the one. Yeah. So you can stop all that game. The Reverend will show up. Now, if you don't let me in, okay, fine, but at least I am showing up. Now, you might have want this other church's mega church or whatever that got the much expensive cameras or whatever, but I'm here with what I got.
I think it's a free speech issue. I wish that we had maybe a private citizen with a video camera and even a just audio recorder who had tried to openly record the event. And I'd like to know, was it directed at you, or was it that they were intent that no one record? I just don't think it was you personally. I think we've got other issues in this county where people can't get information that's supposed to be public information, where people are being put out of meetings and or barred from attending meetings that are supposed to be public meetings in public places. So I don't think it was the church. When you started to mention the church, I thought you were going to talk about the impact that the faith-based monies have had on the activist clergy, which is another issue. When somebody has to worry about the roof and the after school program, and if I get out here and say something somebody doesn't like, or if I don't let somebody get up in my church and make an endorsement, I may not get those funds next year. So maybe you're lucky that you're not in that position.
Well, I don't think that the church of what's happening now will ever be in that position, because when I do get a building, we will, as when you talk, plant a garden that's going to basically sustain the church. I'm going to have a farm behind my church, and I'm going to do a whole lot of active things in the church to generate economics. So the idea is that I don't think I'm ever going to be in that thing. One thing I learned about the journey of America that I love is the independence, and I know when my rights are violated. You understand my point? So
I can tell you this. What I'm amazed at is that in a public building paid for by the taxpayers, in a forum open to the public, in a situation where people are there to hear and see, that they would be able to prevent anyone from memorializing that moment. Now, what we have seen from the current mayor and one of the current assemblymen is that they have no compunction whatsoever of making up the rules to benefit themselves. And I think that the event that took place at the Democratic City Committee reorg, where an elderly person was knocked to the ground, and where Jim was escorted out of the Senior Citizens Center as a card-carrying, paying member of the center, asking a question in a question and answer session, and in your situation where you were prevented
Sure.
from videotaping in a public building paid for by your taxes,
Of
our
course,
tax,
of
everybody.
course.
To me, they're making up the rules, and that's why Plainfield has a problem, because the outside world sees it as a banana republic, where one or two people make up the laws, make up the rules, enforce things. Are you familiar with what's going on right now at City Hall?
No.
They've submitted budgets and requests for aid from the state that didn't have proper documentation and signatures. They hadn't even gotten approval from the city council on the budget, which is required by law.
Sure, sure.
The state has written a letter back basically saying there's no such thing as an interim CFO. There's no such thing as a temporary CFO.
Can you bring a copy of that letter next week? Because next week you're scheduled to come.
There you go.
So next week you can read this letter on
Absolutely.
on the radio, because we don't have time here, because we only got about 2 more minutes.
But that's the kind of thing. They were using a signature stamp to co-sign on city checks from a person who was no longer the CFO. And she even brought it up to the state investigator that this isn't right. There's something smelly. And that's what the problem is in Plainfield.
Well, we hope next week that we have the other party here and those that's in control of Plainfield in terms of, because therefore they can defend that whole thing and argue it out right here on Harvest Radio, because we don't want one side. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, with 2 minutes left, I'd just like to say that if I'm elected, I plan to have an entirely different kind of city government than we have right now. And we've talked about a lot in terms of openness and transparency, welcoming differences of opinion, welcoming citizen input. And this is the only way to go. We have to change this right now.
We have to, the game has to change. Deborah?
Whether I'm elected or not, I have been working on trying to get some jobs in the city, and I have.
And what would be the method, Deborah, real quick?
I have
and I'd like to have you here
contacted.
next week, too.
I have contacted a chemist who is an expert in creating generics for the pharmaceutical industry. He just got back from the malaria conference in Mumbai, India. He has possession of 2 patents that the FDA has approved for production.
Can
in
you
the
bring him
United
here
States.
next week?
I will ask Dr. Pandey if he can come and lay out how he has a sickle cell drug that the Nigerian native doctors have developed, and that he is looking for a place to manufacture and test that drug in the United States. I have been working with him for a year. Whether I'm elected or not, we need work. You cannot help anybody if they have no income.
But one thing I know about Deborah Dowd, I want to say this to the people, that whether she's elected or not, she's going to stay busy. So you ain't got to worry about that right there.
Amen.
All right. Good night.
There you go. Reverend, just read those 2 that I underlined there. It says volumes about what's going on downtown City
It
Hall.
makes me sort of afraid because, you know, I'm the kind of person, I really don't want anything bad to happen to anybody.
Down to the world.
All right, this is the Reverend Zachariah A. Jackson from the Church of What's Happening Now in Town Talker Talk Show, Harvest Radio. I'm out here with 2 gentlemen that's running for key positions in Plainfield and Union County, and I guess with you, Bo, is the surrounding.
That's right.
It's not just Plainfield.
Right, correct.
Okay. Now, what would you like to say to the people?
Well, Jim and I were just talking. First of all, I want to acknowledge Jim and his efforts on behalf of the people of Plainfield. You know, the fact of the matter is there are a lot of problems. Jim's retired. The fact that he's getting out of bed every day, putting on his boots, and trying to solve the problems for Plainfield is a testament to what is good in politics. He's not getting paid to get out there. He's not doing it for any other reason but love for his city. And what we were just talking about right out here in the parking lot was that with the problems that Plainfield faces, there's really not room for partisan politics. It needs everybody working together to solve the problem. And I think the reality is, we just said it, a house divided cannot stand. And as long as we don't work together in this community, we're not going to get it. We're not going to move forward. That's just my observation.
So November 3rd.
November 3rd.
November 3rd is election day. I hope I win. I want to do my best for Plainfield. It's the time in my life to give back to the community. I've been here 23 years, and I'm running as a Republican, but I have no political agenda, no political debts to pay, and I just want to do the best for Plainfield and get this partisan politics out of the city and make a city where everybody can contribute. And if I win, I want to have everybody come and visit me at City Hall and let me know what's going on.
Okay. So you have a vision for the 21st century.
For the 21st century.
9 years into the new century, people don't bring that up enough. You have vision for the new century and bringing us up to date.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we're grateful to you, Reverend Jackson.
Thank you.
For being willing to create these forums.
Yes.
So that the people that you come in contact with can get the truth. There's nothing like the people actually saying it and the words coming from their own mouth versus something that the opposing candidates put in the mail. So we greatly appreciate you creating this forum and letting every voice be heard.
I agree. Open exchange of ideas is the only way to move forward.
Yes, it
We
is.
have to hear from everybody. We have to respect everybody's opinion. And
Yes.
take it seriously.
And that right there is the truth. And let me say this right here. I go out my way to invite many. We don't discriminate here. You know, we bring everybody in. But as you see, I'm grateful to you guys from the Republican Party